What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Moshiach Matters on Monday, because Moshiach matters, and it's Monday. And we are going to, with God's help, once again, fulfill the directives of the leader of our generation, of Moshiach himself, to learn the teachings of the leader of the generation about Moshiach and Geula. And as the Rebbe has told us, this is the direct Yeshara, the direct path to bring redemption. So let's get cracking. We're in Parshas Balak, and actually the Sikha was originally given on Yud Zayin Tammuz, and therefore its focus is mainly on Yud Zayin Tammuz, which in our calendar is a week from tomorrow. Yud Zayin Tammuz is known as the beginning of what is called as the 3 weeks, or the days of narrowness, if you will. It begins the period that leads up to the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av. Not exactly, according to our history, a good time for the Jewish people, but as we're going to learn, history has changed, and it is now very good. In fact, it's all good. So let's get moving. Aleph. Here's what about base of funny. So on that day when the Sikha was given, the 17th of Tammuz actually fell on Shabbat. And we know if that happens, the fast day gets pushed off. And that's what happened that year. Aleph, B'pashtus. First of all, in a simple way. It says that since the day of Shabbat, it's forbidden to fast. How much more so a fast that is connected with matters that are undesirable. Sha'ari Shabbat ain't eitzivbo, because you're not allowed to have any sorrow on Shabbat. You're not allowed to mourn Shabbat. Shabbat is in fact the most joyful day of the year. Shabbat is, we're supposed to be more happy and joyful than even on Yom Tovi. So and not only is it a day that we're supposed to not be despondent or depressed, but it's a day of joy, of tremendous joy. The Tainuk and pleasure. And therefore the fast day is pushed off to the first day of the week, Yom Rishon, which is called Sunday in the English vernacular. And there's no fasting on Shabbat. Base, that's one of the matters. The second is Ba'omek Yoser, Ulai Yesh Lamar, in a deeper way. The Chias Tanias Mipane Yom Shabbat Hi. Netinas Koach Lidichasei Ubitalu Mikol Mikol. Kafisha Metzino Betisha Va'av Shal HaChayos B'Shabbat. That, the fact that this is a fast day that occurs on Shabbat, this gives us the power to not only push off the fast day to the next day, which is the first day of the week, Yom Rishon, but to completely nullify the fast day, as we see is the case, because after this, the next major fast day is on Tisha B'Av, which also that year fell on Shabbat. So it's exactly 3 weeks after. La'achar Shabbat la'amar Rabbi Hoel yidcha. And therefore we see after Shabbat we have this idea that it should be pushed off forever. Because it'll be pushed off until we get to the days of Mashiach. Saktin Rambam as the Rambam brings down that all the fast days will be totally nullified in the days of Mashiach. Not only will the fast days be nullified, but they will be completely transformed to days of great joy and happiness. And furthermore, we said that this fast day, which is the 4th fast day, according to what it says, Beit Yehuda, that this will be, a tremendous joyful day, a day of peace, a day of happiness, and a day of joy. And when Mashiach comes, Yesh Lamar, and therefore there is to say, Sheminyan Zeh, Nasa Beyom HaTanias, Shachal B'Shabbat, Shalo Zeh, Durvad, Shasetanis Beto Ela, Shetafech, Simcha V'Tainug, Beyom HaShabbat. That there is to say that this matter on this fast day that is pushed off or falls on Shabbats, that in the future not only will be nullified, but will be completely transformed to a day of great joy. And to explain it in a different way. The fact that this occurs, that this fast day comes in Shabbat, there's two matters to go over. One, it negates the undesirable matters that fall out on the fast day. Because in Shabbat you're not allowed to have undesirable things. And secondly, that they will be transformed to great days of joy and happiness. Base. So now we're going to delve into this concept. Yom HaTanias v'chetzonias hu inin bliti ritzui. Eno shu ha'chefach ha'ratzon ha'onik. Avo penimius hu inin toif kadashim kasu yom ratzon Hashem. And this is a very general principle. And just to preface, we have to understand that our Rebbe is a revolutionary. Because he's the head of the Jewish people, Rosh Bnei Israel, he comes out with practices that 40, 50, 60 years later, everyone seems to be doing and seems to take credit for it. But the fact is the Rebbe revolutionized everything from the whole concept of carving Bali Chuvas to putting tefillin on Jews in the street to on and on and on and on. So one of these matters that the Rebbe emphasizes, which has never really been emphasized previously, is that when we're fasting, everything has what's called as a neshama va'aguf, a body and a soul, just like we have a body and a soul. So every matter in this world has an external matter and an internal matter. So the external matter of the fast day appears to be an undesirable thing. You're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to drink, there's all these restrictions. But the innermost desire of the fast day, in fact, is a tremendous joyful thing. And it's very good. In fact, we call a fast day Yom Ratzon Hashem, a day of desire for God. God loves this because inside it's causing us to be aroused to do tshuva and connect to God in a deeper manner. And more specifically, as applies to this fast day, the fourth fast day is declared by the rabbis. Excuse me. The external part of this fast day appears to be a day of sorrow and joy connected to the exile. But the inner dimension of this fast day is good. And the Rebbe said we see this, in fact, because this is called the fast day of the 17th of Tammuz. And 17 is the gematria, the numerical equivalent for Tov, for good. The Shleimus HaTov Geula, until the ultimate good, which will be in the days of redemption. Shleimus Kivan Shakavana Bataklis, Haklalus in Horban Bagodus, Aino Elakide Levova Hilives, Shleimus Geula. And therefore we see that the ultimate intention of the fast days, and in fact the exile in itself, is only to bring about the true completion of goodness which will take place in the days of Mashiach. And the external aspect is what we call Golus or exile, but the innermost dimension is what we call redemption or Geula. As it says in the Gemara, that specifically this fourth fast day, as brought down by Beit Yehuda, will be called out as a specific day to be transformed to joy and happiness. It's called the fasting, and it's also called the day of great joy. בזמן שיש שלום יהיה לששון לשמחה, אין שלום soyim lechora in uvon. But a fast day seems to be the opposite of joy and happiness, right? It's not exactly what a fast day is. You ask any Jew what it feels like to not eat all day long, and they'll tell you it's not a very pleasant experience. We're people who like to eat, so it appears to be on an external quite unpleasant, even though it's actually healthy for you to fast from time to time. But that's besides the point. Soy mesas v'zim ha'ler kivan shekavanat v'taklis. Soy hu haficha soy mesas v'zim abol ha'achar yadei ha'chorban v'galus. Elish b'zman ha'galus mudgash v'ikar inin ha'tsoy ba'agula yizgala inin ha'mitis sasan v'zim. But nevertheless, again, it will be transformed to great joy and happiness. Gimel. Uma'ayin zeh v'yom ha'tinias shahal Shabbat. And we see this specifically when a fast day falls out on Shabbat. It's emphasized even more. Because we know that Shabbat in and of itself is a day of great joy and pleasure for God. Shabbat is called the Yom HaRatzayin, a desirable day for God, just like actually a fast day is also called that same thing. Chamdas Yamim Oisei Kurias. And we see this on the song of the day on Shabbat. Every day we have the corresponding song that we read, we say in the prayers. This is the day of joy on Shabbat. And it's a foretaste that Shabbat, it says, will be an example, a foretaste of how things are going to be in the days of Mashiach, in the future to come, when it's going to be peaceful and restful and enjoyable. So and we see that this fast day, therefore, when it comes on Shabbat, there is no emphasis whatsoever, even the external part of the fasting, because you're not fasting. So therefore, the whole aspect of the fast day that's connected to undesirable things and exile is totally nullified when it falls out on Shabbats. And then it's just good. Then the inner dimension of the fast day really becomes revealed, because, as we said a second ago, we're not allowed to fast on Shabbat. We're not allowed to be sad on Shabbat. So there's no aspect of sadness whatsoever. The image of Murgash Bahachila Vishtia the Yom HaTiniah Shachal Shabbat Shemitzvah the Achila Vishtia the Gan Gedolim the Sar of Yain Tishvil Shemin Yoser Mashka Shar. And we see ultimately we know that it's emphasized even more when a fast day falls on Shabbat, that it's a mitzvah to have extra pleasure. On Shabbat, we're meant to partake in pleasures of physical things, of food, of drink, Shabbat is meant to be a day where we're kind of remove the restrictions of actually really getting into the physical pleasures of this world. And we're supposed to focus on eating, have good fish, good wine, all of these things. And it's emphasized even more when a fast day falls out on Shabbat. Because now it's not on a fast day, you're supposed to eat double the day before the fast day. So if the fast day gets pushed off till the first day of the week on Shabbat, we've got to enjoy it even more than the norm. And that's what the Rebbe is going to say. Now, so the Rebbe says, not only are we not just nullifying the fact that we're not fasting, we're eating, but as we pointed out, we're doubling over and transforming this fast day to a day of great joy, and therefore we've got to eat and drink even more than normal on Shabbat when the fast day comes through. Yesh no this to say, but achilas daging gedoyni v'sar shemer v'ishtias yain yesh yishan v'asuras Shabbat shechol bo yom hatanias murumas gam v'asura the asida chodesh baruch hu that's also the. And the Rebbe said this is a hint of the big meal that's going to take place in the future to come, that's going to be reserved for the righteous people, all the Jewish people we know are righteous. Let's see the Vo in the future to come, where we have Shuvah Chil Basar Leviathan B'Shorabor Yisli Yain. Says that at that meal, we're going to have the Shohar, the great ox, and the Leviathan, the whale, the giant fish, and guarded wine. Asher Noisef Ahinim HaRuchnim HaRumzim Bezeh Shvizara Drushe Chassidus. That Chassidus explains there's a lot of deep inner Kabbalistic meanings to what these things mean. The ox and the fish and the guarded wine, but it's not just a spiritual Kabbalistic meal. In fact, it is a Suda, but Gashmi, it's also physically, we're going to be eating these physical things. Because we know the ultimate reward in the days of Mashiach is not to go to heaven. That Judaism is unique from any other religion or any other philosophy, where every other religious doctrine is all about getting out of this horrific world, transcending this world through meditation, through self, whatever you're doing, or to just live a life of total, isolation, so you can get yourself a front row seats in heaven. That is not what Judaism is about. We are about transforming this physical world into a dwelling place for God. And therefore, the ultimate reward will not be in Gan Eden, where there's no eating and drinking, but it will be in this physical world. The Shamas Boguf Im Davka, in physical bodies. And not only that, it says now in the times of the exile, it is our soul that enlivens the body. But in the future to come, it is our body that will enliven our soul. That our bodies will even be holier than our souls, if you can imagine how that's possible. But the Suras Yom HaShabbat Ishna Gam Suras Malamalka B'Motzi Shabbat. And we see it also continues after to the Meleva Malka meal on Motzi Shabbat, Shekevan Shekeshora Im Kavoid HaShavuz, that is connected also with the Kavod of Shavuos. Yesh Lahakfid Bezeh Gam B'Motzi Shabbat Yud Zayin Tammuz. Yesh Lama Oid Yoizir Mekal B'Motzi Shabbat Shlicha Yoiser Suras the David Malcha Mashiach with Geshes Bo Yoiser Shaykos Leimos a Mashiach. And we see that this great surah of David Melech, where we have on Mochi Shabbat, is the surah of David Melech. This is emphasized even more because that is a meal that is connected to Mashiach, like David Melech is. 1 second. Therefore, it's emphasized even more the Moti Shabbat that falls out when there's a fast day of Yud Zayin Tammuz. Now, yes, Akashar in Lidichis, Bitul Sama Revis Hafikol Yom Toyves, Yom Sasum Semka in Parshas Yeshua, Parshas Balak. And now we're going to connect what we just learned to the Parsha that we're in, Parshas Balak. The Rebbe often not only speaks about, but emphasizes in these sichas the why did I cross this out? 1 second. 1 second. He emphasizes not only the parsha of the week, but the day of the month as well, which we spoke about at length in last week's sicha. Okay. But Parshas Balak. Shabbat nitafrash b'Torah al derek bios HaMashiach. Psak-din HaRambam. We see in Parshas Balak, we have a hint to Mashiach in this week's parsha, as the Rambam says. Melech HaMashiach. The Rambam is the one who codifies the laws of Mashiach, of redemption. HaTorah he'ider ela b'Parshas Bilam na'amar. Sham nevuah b'shnei HaMashiachim. That there's a nevuah in this week's parsha, a prophecy, that talks about Mashiach's coming. The Mashiach HaRishon, and the first time it's mentioning is Shehu David Shahashia Es Yisrael Miyad Sirvechem how that's Mashiach, and emphasizing now specifically the first Redeemer, King David, saved the Jewish people from the hand of our enemies. Mashiach Acharoin she'omer mevara she'mishma es Yisrael, and the last Redeemer, who's Mashiach himself, it's talking about as well, David being the first king, if you will, of the Jewish people, and Melech HaMashiach being the final king. David, that I see him, but it is not now. It's referring to David. Ashurenu v'lo karoi v'HaMashiach, Melech HaMashiach, excuse me. And he will come, but he's not close. This is referring to Melech HaMashiach. Derech Chochav mi Yaakov zeh David, and a star will come out from Yaakov. This is referring to David. The Kam Shevet Yisrael zeh Melech HaMashiach, and it's connected to all the tribes of the Jewish people, and this is referring to Melech HaMashiach. Umechaz Pa'asi Moab zeh David, and he will knock down all of the enemies, opposition. This is David. The Karkar Kol Beni Sheis zeh Melech HaMashiach. So the Rebbe is giving different hints in this week's parsha that are talking about the first Redeemer, the first king of the Jewish people, David HaMelech, and the final king of the Jewish people, the Rebbe himself, Melech HaMashiach. Yes, in order to say Torah, he Eider Shel Mashiach b'Parshas Bilam, Shebo Murgash Lo Avaya Elokecha Nishma Al Bilam Yafoch Hashem Elokecha. That Bilam wanted to curse the Jewish people, and he couldn't. He said, "I could only take out what God puts in my mouth," and they sent him to curse the Jewish people, and instead he blessed them. And this is a hint of transforming the exile to redemption. That what appears to be intended for negative actually turns out to positive. And this is a hint that all the days of tsar or challenges or difficulties, both in an individual capacity in our lives and as in a general capacity, for the Jewish people, is connected to the fact that they will all be transformed to tremendous joy and goodness. Everything will be turned over. Yeah. Hold on, I lost my place. Yeah. What's up, Dov? Parshas Pinchas. And we also see a connection to Parsha Pinchas in that we read in Mincha, of Shabbat, because it says Pinchas is Eliyahu, and we know that Eliyahu is the one who will announce the redemption. But Pratya is Yosher B'Noga the Toich on a Parsha, and we see it even more detailed with what's going on inside the Parsha. Binyan B'nei Yisrael. That the counting of the Jewish people, this was the 10th counting of the Jewish people that took place. Kadisha Midrash, as the Midrash explains, in 10 different places, God counted the Yidden. And it says, and that there will be one in the future to come, where it says, and they, like sheep, they will all pass before him. Chalukas ha'arts, and there will be dividing of the land. The ala tchilak ha'arts v'nechala, the rav t'rava nechala, ach v'goral yichalek as ha'arts, and through the goral, through the lottery, there will be dividing of the land. Shekvan sheni frash, rak oifen chalukas ha'arts, v'lo prati chalukas yudbeis shvatim. Yesh l'mar d'zeh klal gam hashlemas v'chalukas ha'arts b'yos ha'mashiach. It says that there was only 12 portions of the land divided, but one of the hints of the time that will be in the days of Mashiach is there will actually be 13 portions, because the tribe that I belong to, the tribe of the Kohanim, did not have a division of the land. The land was considered their portion along with God. I don't know what that meant actually, how they actually lived, where they did. But it says in the days of Mashiach, the Kohanim will actually have their portion of land just like the rest of the tribes. The Korbanos, Ha'oimdim, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. And we also see a reference to the three main festivals, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkos. Shebezeh Murumazas. Hifachas et Soimais Lasasum the simple the Sidim the Ondim Toivim. And in this we also see a hints to the transforming of the days of sorrow to days of great joy. And we see this even more in this time. And it says, referring to the fact that the holidays in the future to come will be nullified. So what it means that the holidays will be nullified, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be not acknowledging what the holidays or celebrating. It means that what normally makes a holiday is an aliyah, that our souls elevate to a higher state. In fact, during the holidays, our souls elevate to the sphere of Bina in the world of Bria, which is why a Shabbat is even higher, because in Shabbat we go up to the world of Etzilus or Chochmah. It's a higher elevation. It's called an aliyah of a neshama that takes place. But the light of Mashiach will be so powerful, and the revelation of godliness will be so powerful that the Yom Tov days will not have any type of an aliyah, because the light of Mashiach will even overshadow what normally would be the aliyah to a higher state of awareness or consciousness. Hey, now we're going back to the fact of the 17th of Tammuz falling out on Shabbat that year. That begins the called Bein HaMitzarim, the days of narrow or the constrictive days of the 3 weeks. The Gabi Shar HaShabbatot Shabbat Emsa Yemei Bein HaMitzarim. And now we're going to talk about the Shabbos that fall out during these 3 weeks. Because we have the 17th of Tammuz. Again, this is when the Rebbe gave the Sikha B'Shabbat. And then you have the following Shabbat, which is on the 24th of Tammuz. And then after that, you have the following Shabbat after that. And then after that, you have the Shabbat of Tisha B'Av, which happened on that year. Like it's known the 3 weeks that take place during the 3 Shabbats that take place during these 3 weeks. That they're connected to a refuah, a healing of these 3 weeks. Nimsa Vav Pa'amim Zayin, talking about that sometimes it comes out on the 6th day of the week, sometimes on the 7th, the Shabbat they're calculating. So the Rebbe is saying that the Shabbats themselves are fixing up, because in Shabbat, again, you're not allowed to have mourning or sorrow. So therefore, on the Shabbats, there's not going to be any negative things. And in fact, the Shabbat is going to be fixing up those weeks that were undesirable. But and the Rebbe is again focusing at the fact that Shabbat is a day of redemption, and therefore the specific days of Shabbat that fall out during the 3 weeks are fixing up of the rest of the undesirable times of the week. But the Rebbe says that's not the case in that year where Shabbat falls on the 17th of Tammuz specifically, because then we don't have any negative thing to fix up, because it's all good. Because as we said earlier, that the Yud Zayin Tammuz falling on Shabbat transforms it to a revealed good. We know the inner part of the fast is good, but when it happens on a Shabbat, then there is no outer that's not good. Everything is good. And that's what the Rebbe says now. Toy Yud Zayin Tammuz, Bein HaMitzarim, the 17th of Tammuz, that begins the counting of the days of narrow. אחריו אמיתיס ושלום דגול אמיתיס השלם שלוחן תחילתם לסיום ביום השבת שנהגו. And therefore, since it starts on Shabbat and ends on Shabbat, the whole 3 weeks, the Rebbe says, are connected to redemption. It's no longer any type of mourning. It's amazing pella what the Rebbe brings forth. No rabbi ever speaks like this in the history that we're now holding a time where the fast days have been transformed to days of joy. Because the innermost part of the fast days revealed, because we're already in Yemot HaMashiach. Only the Rebbe has the nevuah, the prophecy, the shoulders, the capability of speaking about such things. Okay, but here's some words to say. Shema'alas Yom HaShabbat shechal bo sheva ve'eser b'tamuz legabe haShabbatois v'bein hamitzurim sha'ach hazeh mudgeshes gam Parshas Balak. And also we see a connection to this in the Parsha in Parshas Balak. Adama Shaparshiois Shakurim Bagilma Shabbatois the Bein HaMitzurim, that the preface, the Shabbos that we read during these 3 weeks, Hey Matas from Maseh V'Devarim Mishnehem Shabbatos Maseh Mechovrim, they include Matos for Masa and Devarim. Those are usually the Shabbos that fall out. And sometimes Matos and Masai are combined. Korean Gam Pinchas Mitzrayim, and then therefore we also would read Pinchas during these 3 weeks. Parshas Balak Oilim Eino B'Kol Bein HaMitzrayim. And this is not the case with Parshas Balak, which is normally outside of the 3 weeks. Kigam Shekorim Parshas Balak B'Shabbos L'Chol Bo Yudzayin Tammuz. But we see in our particular year that Parshas Balak actually falls out in the beginning of the 3 weeks, because the 3 weeks start with Yud Zayin Tammuz on Shabbat. Nilchad Tchilas Bein HaMitzrayim the Yom HaRishon Shel Achish Shabbat Shach the Parshas Pinchas. Mizamuvan Sheyesh Chiluk Ben Oifen Haguda Parshas Pinchas. And in this we see the connection between the redemption and Parshas Pinchas, the Oifen Haguda Parshas Balak, and also the connection of Parshas Balak to the redemption. Parshas Pinchas. So what does Parshas Pinchas have to do with the redemption? That we know that the relevance is emphasized because the main fixing up and of the destruction of the gullus is wait, hold on a second. That the Goa Parshas Pinchas, since the relevance to these 3 weeks is emphasizing how the main fixing up of the exile of the gullus. This is not the case of the Gula connected with Parshas Balak. In other words, when it starts with Pinchas, the main emphasis is focusing on fixing up the exile. But when it begins with Balak, כיוון שיחס של על לבין המצרים הוא באופן שאינו שייך כי אם למעלה מבין המצרים, הרגש ומודגש גם בעיקר מעל לסכסים אז גאולה כשלעצמה. גאולה מטרס. That the Parshas Balak is emphasizing the fact of not fixing up the exile, but of already having everything transformed to the redemption. So it's not about nullifying bad, it's about revealing good. The in Zem Mudgash Gambo Efen Shahatorah that Heida all Bios HaMashiach Parshas Balaam. And we see this emphasized also that the Torah, how it's connected to the days of Mashiach and Parshas Balaam. Krishna Rambam Muvor HaTorah Ha'ida Ela Matim Dechil Lashon Hamar V'Shuv Hashem Elokecha Esher V'Secha V'Rachamecha. It's talking about Hashem will gather all of the lost tribes, if you will, all of his lost children for the furthest corner of the world. The Parshas Bilam, because we see the connection to Parshas Bilam, as we spoke earlier, where the Nevuah is connected to Mashiach. Oh. Excuse me. Chalukim Shneim. What is the difference? Pasuk v'yishev Hashem Elokecha eser shavai sarah v'chamecha, that Hashem in his great mercy will gather you from the corners of the world. With geshes v'ikal gulam in hagalus. This is emphasized mainly the redemption from the exile. V'ilay b'parshas Bilam with geshes on malas v'ashlim as a gulam mishlatzma. But in Parshas Bilam, we're focusing not on transforming, not on going out of the exile into the redemption, but we're focusing specifically on the redemption itself, without any emphasis on the exile whatsoever. Excuse me. Malchus David, King Shabbat David, B'Shleimus, B'Malchus Moshiach Acharayim, Sho'olimid B'Minyan, Sheha U'Benuas Bilam. The kingship of David will be complete and ultimately connected to the final Redeemer, the final Mashiach, as is mentioned through the prophecy of Bilam. That it will bring about the situation of the freedom from being under the rule of the nations of the world, and that will no longer be considered. And Heinim Kalavi Yakim Ka'ari Itana Lo Ishkav Ad Akal Tirav. And it says that the lion shall lay down with the lamb. The Yaram Ma'oiga Ma'ha V'Tera Melachus. Talking about what will happen in the days of Mashiach. Ba'ad Areino V'Lo Ata Asher Reino V'Lo Karoiv Derech Chami Yaakov Kam Shevat Yisrael, referring to that the first Mashiach, as we said earlier, David, and the final Mashiach himself, the Rebbe. These are the two Mashiachs that we are going to be that were prophesied. And according to this, there's also to express the reason that it's emphasized the going out from Egypt, the Parshas Nevuah B'Shnei HaMashiachim, in the parsha connected to the prophecy of the two Mashiachs. Al derek Moshe Kasuv Kiyamei Tzeisechem Eretz Mitzrayim Arnino Reflex. A pasuk the Rebbe quotes quite often from the prophet Micah, but it says, just like the days I took you out from Egypt, I will once again show you wonders. And this is emphasizing the redemption of Melech HaMashiach himself. And this is not emphasizing taking the Jewish people out of the exile, because it's adding on from after going out of Egypt. Now this Yosef, not only wonders but miracles I will show you. Rather, it says that these are the deeds, and I took the Jewish people out from Egypt. It is not only referring to the taking out of the Jewish people from Egypt the first time when we are under the control of Ramses, the pharaoh at the time, but it's referring to all the Egypts, all the transversing we must do amongst the nations of the world, all of our individual tests and difficulties and challenges along our path, as well as in a nation together. Remez Gulamiti Sashleim Asari Meshach Tikeno, the Mizrach, Bade, Haim Chilek, Maetzim Mitzram, Betak Sashlemus. Shabazam Mugeshes, Mother Hashlemus, the Gulamiti Sashlema, Gushlam Atzmoi, referring not again just to the first taking us out of Egypt, but the final one as well. Zion, Kano, Noisef Eloi Miuchad, and adding on to what we said above. The Reino Zet, as it applies specifically to our generation. Bakdama Shekashem Nisba'er Be'el Bishnim Shemehem Hal Yeshlama Tumuz B'Yom HaShabbat Mugash B'Ikar HaToif Shabiyud Zayin Tamuz V'Beis Gimel Shavuot Shaloi Nidgash HaCharon V'Gal is Er HaChana Lagula. And as we said earlier, the fact that the 17th of Tammuz falls out on Shabbat, it emphasizes the good of the 3 weeks. And it's not emphasizing the outer part, which is still exile, but the whole thing is now just good and just transformed and just there to prepare for redemption. Mitzad Hadgashes, Yom HaShabbat, and of course we know that Shabbat itself is connected to redemption. Hu Gam B'Klalus HaRidus. Shokal Haluchim Mikravim Yoisu the Mitzvah Shlema, and several we see, including throughout all the generations, that everything has been taking us closer and closer in preparation for the true and complete redemption. That's the whole reason we're here. That's the whole reason this has all been started. Pochas v'choylech hargesh achorban v'galush shamimim eder v'moisef v'chedek miragash hakana legula. And it's emphasizing not only the opening of getting out of the exile, but bringing us into the redemption. And this is emphasized when Yud Zayin Tammuz falls on Shabbat and begins the 3-week period that will now be transformed to 3 weeks of good. No more negative energy. And in this time we see that there is the peace and the joy and the hold on, so let me back up. So it says in the Lashon Gemara, and explaining the reason that the fast days will be turned to days of joy, because it explains that in the times when we're at peace, when the Jewish people are living in a time of peace, when there's no one who's actively trying to take us out as they always do, or harm us, or whatever the case may be, then it says, the decree of fasting is only in the time of the exile. But when the Jewish people are in a state of redemption, even if it's not the true and complete redemption, but if we're not under the rule of the nations of the world and we're living in a state of revealed good, then the fast days are not applicable. Namely, kasher nechalesh teichav hagalos, ein gezeres hamalchus, nechalesh teichav hatzayim, makaravim yoyser lezman she'et hasas v'nesem. These are all bringing us closer to the time where they'll permanently transform to days of great joy, as we have been discussing for the last 45 minutes. And a continuation of all the generations that came previously. We know traditionally that the month of Tammuz has been connected to things that are the opposite of Simcha, Korban v'Galus, destruction and exile. The Eilu b'Doreinu zeh nizgala b'Chodesh Tammuz Inyan Shal Simcha v'Geula. This is what I spoke about in the Shabbaton last week. That every other rabbi out there is talking about how bad Tammuz is and terrible. What the Rebbe says, no, not anymore. We see that in our generation, the Rebbe says, the month of Tammuz has already been redeemed. And now it is a month of great joy and redemption. Because this was the month and is the month of the redemption of the previous Rebbe from his prison camp that took place on the 12th and 13th of Tammuz, which is why we don't fast this week on Wednesday or Thursday, and which is why we'll be having a big Fabringen at the center. Not on Wednesday and Thursday. On Thursday and Friday is the 12th and 13th of Tammuz, which is why we'll be having a big Fabringen at the center for all those who are local. Kedivrei ba'al hasimcha b'gula b'kosvoi hayadua lo es v'rvar goah hakadosh baruch hu b'yud beis Tammuz, as the Baal HaSimcha, the Frierdiker Rebbe himself said when he was released. Not only was I released by God on Yud Beis Tammuz, ki im gam as kol mechavi torasem ukash murei mitzvos, but all of those who hold beloved your Torah and your mitzvot and guard your mitzvot, ugam es asher b'shem Yisrael yichanu. including all those that go in the name of the Jewish people in general. Go all the Kalban Israel. It was a redemption for all the Jewish people. It was with the Frierdiker Rebbe when he came out of prison. As it's known, as we've discussed numerous times in these classes, that's the Nasi Hakol, the leaders connected to the whole generation. And therefore, when the leader goes into exile, the whole generation goes with him. And when the leader comes out, the whole generation comes out with him. And it's connected to the true and complete redemption. This was another opening. There's several times in our history that openings of redemption took place. When the Frierdiker Rebbe was taken out of prison, when the Alter Rebbe was taken out of prison, when Shimon Bar Yochai composed the Zohar, many times where it just opened up another pipe for redemption. But and this brought forth the spreading of the well springs to the furthest corners of the world, down here in the lowest worlds. And the well springs have been spread out to the furthest corners of the world. And this is all preparation, the final preparations for our redemption from Moshiach. And we can see, according to all the signs that have taken place, and all these signs that were established by our rabbis and our sages, that we are holding in what is called the heels of Mashiach. And we are the final generation of the exile. And therefore, we're automatically the first generation of the redemption. And the Rebbe said we're no longer focusing on nullifying the exile. We are now focusing on good, on the toiv. That's of the matter. That's the main thing. That's the main thing we have to switch our brains from. Get out of exile mentality and into geula mentality. Instead of focusing on negative and bad, and we have to overcome all this negativity, switch to everything's good. It all starts in here. Actually, it all starts in here. It starts by putting the consciousness, right, into our brain. This is the, by the way, just a side note, only a Rebbe, God, of course, Nevuah, prophecies, and in our generations, only a Rebbe can write Torah. Very rare occasions they had one or two Chassidim in the past that also got permission from the Rebbe to write Chassidus, but Rabbi Hillel took departure. But it's very, very rare. For the most part, a Rebbe's teachings is Torah. It's part of the Torah because it's not coming from the Rebbe. It's a channel for God. So this is the most recent Torah that we have in the world. The teachings of the Rebbe from Nun Aleph Nun Beis are the most up-to-date information that we have from God in existence. Just to comprehend what's going on, what we're learning. This is not the, hachi-pachi. This is serious, serious stuff. And therefore, we have to go in accordance with the Rebbe's teachings. And the more we learn this, the more we transform from an exile mentality to a redemption mentality. The Bakal Zet, and when the Frierdiker Rebbe came out of prison, he turned up the volume and spreading Chassidus around the world, especially here in America. What is collectively referred to as the lower half of the globe, meaning spiritually. And it's continued more and more throughout the years. The true of the Alter Gula, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said, immediate tshuva brings forth immediate redemption. But furthermore, after all the years of our tremendous work that have been done, all that is necessary is to polish the buttons. Meaning the final touches. And even more than this, that we have already polished the buttons. And that the only thing that is left, the Rebbe said, is that we should stand and be prepared. the Kabbalah Panei Mashiach Tzikinu, to accept and receive the face and inwardness of our righteous Redeemer. And we see this in reached its state of completion in this period of time where we're in. V'dai v'lo kol suffix ficha shekar hagia zman hagu. And the Rebbe said, and for sure, without any doubt whatsoever, 3 times he said, we are already reaching the times of redemption. We've already reached the times of redemption. As the Rabbi said, we're at the end of days, the end of times, meaning the end of the goals. And we've already done tshuva, meaning, again, the Jewish people in general, not each one of us. And it's already done. The work is complete. It says even Mashiach will cause the righteous to do tshuva, even the tzaddikim will do tshuva. And since there's a spark of Mashiach inside of every single one of the Yidden, and we already found ourselves so the Rebbe just said a second ago that we already find ourselves in the days of Mashiach. And now he says even more, we already find ourselves very close to the true and complete redemption. What does it mean? It means there's stages, right? It's like you whatever the case may be, you're starting something at the beginning, middle, and the end. So the Rebbe said we for sure have already started the redemption, meaning the initial stages. And the Rebbe says now we're very close. He says smechus mamish, very close to the true and complete redemption, meaning to the end. And he said this 33 years ago. So just to give you an idea how close redemption is, I don't think we really realize how close redemption is. And therefore, Mudgash beyoser ha'toyv, the Jewish Thomas, Ben HaMitzrayim, so he said, Boyim lahalilu b'shleimas ha'gulim mitzvah shleim. And the Rebbe said, how much more so now that we have to emphasize the goodness of the 17th of Tammuz and these 3 weeks. And this will reveal the true and complete redemption. In other words, by focusing on the inner dimension of everything, no matter how bad it may look to your eyes, you got to get deep. You got to go deeper and deeper into the matter, and you can't do that without Chassidus. Chassidut is the only tool, of course, along with self-rectification, self-working on yourself, whatever tools means necessary to go deep inside of yourself and unearth the negative stuff inside it and yank it out and get into your kishkas. Because Mashiach is not only out there, he's in here. He's in the depths and the resources of your soul. And the deeper you go inside of yourself, the more you will find redemption in the outside world as well. It's a direct mirror. The more you get inside, the more good reflects outside. If you're still living in a state of negative consciousness, that's what you're going to see. And this is emphasized even more in our year. In addition, and to thus, as we find ourselves very close to the true and complete redemption. The year I will show you wonders. And just like I took you out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. And you already can see these wonders. And these wonders will testify themselves. It says, because this is the year that Melech HaMashiach revealed himself and will reveal himself. And that's when the Rebbe revealed himself as Mashiach. Lo sha'a hamelech HaMashiach bo va'ad. And this is the hour that Melech HaMashiach is coming. Meaning we're here. We're at the finish line. And he will announce to the Jewish people the time of your redemption has arrived. Which is exactly what the Rebbe is saying right here. The time of your redemption has arrived. He's fulfilling the prophecy himself. And he will proclaim, here is Melech HaMashiach. And he's already come in the past tense. And here we are standing on the threshold of the days of Mashiach. Al Saf Tchilas Hagula. Literally, at the beginning of the threshold of the redemption. And we should bring it forth that it should be it's a completion of these stages. And therefore, for sure, on the 17th of Tammuz, especially how much more so this year when the 3 weeks start on Shabbat and the fast day is nullified and it's emphasizing even more the redemption. Not just the preparation for the redemption, but rather that the redemption should come right now in actuality on this Shabbos. It's right. And we will see how these days are transformed to days of joy and happiness. Beautiful. Give me 1 second. I want to check something out. Test. Mazambovan should be a May, Bain Hamitzraim, the Shana Zuk, Trick Liois, Storima. Yuhal, the Yoiser Sha'az, or the Yoiser Ois, the call Kashora they made, Indian Gula meets Mashiach, Minyan, based on the Shlish. There is said, from this we can understand that these days of the 3 weeks and this year, it's necessary, the Rebbe says, to make a shturim. You know what a shturim is? A lot of noise, a balagan, an earthquake. Specifically as it's connected to the fact that the importance and the connection to learn about matters of Mashiach and Geula and the building of the Beis Hamikdash. We know that during the 3 weeks, it is a time that is incumbent, and in fact, we're commanded, or if it's a command or custom, to learn about the building of the Beis Hamikdash, specifically to the final chapters in the prophet Yechezkel. I believe it's 40 through 47 off the top of my head. It's the last 7 or 8 chapters that refer specifically about the building of Beis Hamikdash. Baruch Hashem, I do it every single year, and I encourage everyone else to do it every single year. It's very important. It prepares us for the mindset of redemption. In fact, and it says that if you learn about the building of the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem considers it as if you are building the Beis Hamikdash. And that's what the Rebbe is going to talk about. Now, okay. And like it's known, we must advertise, the Rebbe says, and spread out to all the Jewish people that in these days in particular, of these 3 weeks, we must add on learning of Torah matters as they're connected to the Beis Hamikdash. Yisoid Divrei HaMidrash, including the words of the Midrash. Bo bara shachodesh boho morala has Yechezkel. Etz Saras Abayis Hu HaOmer that Hashem commanded the prophet Yechezkel. God as Beit Yisrael as Habayit V'Yachulama Minoseichem Dedoy as Tachnis. Hashem literally had just destroyed Shem Rachamim. Well, Hashem didn't. The enemies did, but he allowed it to happen. The previous temple. And Hashem commanded Yechezkel that start teaching the children, the Jewish people, about the rebuilding of the temple, the third temple. And the prophet Yechezkel responded, Rabbeinu Shel Olam, master of the world, Shab Anu Notanim Bagola Be'eretz Shmi'ino Ba'ato Hemeh Li Lalech Lahidil Yisrael Tzuras Bayit. Said, we just got sent into exile. Our temple got destroyed, and we're being sent around the world into exile. And you want me to teach the Jewish people about the building of the Beis Hamikdash? We're mourning. Share Shikriyasa school the Kroes Ani Ma'ala Elem Kido Aim Oiskim Bain Habayit. He said, excuse me, but just because my children are exiled, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be learning about the building of the third temple. Good point. And everything we learned above, especially as it applies to our generation and our year. With Gash Rak Toiv, the Yud Zayin Tammuz, how we're emphasizing only the good of the 17th of Tammuz, of Bein HaMitzrayim of these 3 weeks. And as we're standing on the threshold of redemption, and we should immediately should literally happen at this moment, that we all get transformed to the true and complete redemption and the completion of the building of the third temple. First of all, that our learning, the Rebbe said, should not be on a focus. The Rebbe, just in this sikha, you can see if you learn it closely, that the Rebbe just turns everything on its head. Usually, this is a time of mourning, and a sad time, these 3 weeks. The Rebbe said, no, that your learning should not emphasize that we're doing some kind of tikkun for the fixing up and the destruction of the temple. On the contrary, the Rebbe says, the learning should be focusing on the third temple, not on the destruction, the woe is me of the past, but on the contrary, the focus on the goodness of the future that's coming now. And the third temple will be much greater than even the first and second temples previously. Because it'll never be destroyed. It will have the advantages of both the first and the second temple combined into the third temple. And furthermore and mainly, and the Rebbe said, and not only are we talking about just learning, but the learning must come to actuality. The Rebbe said, because any moment the real true physical temple is about to descend from heaven. So don't think you're just learning from the prophet Yechezkel about how the temple is going to be built, and it's a nice lofty concept. But when we're learning about the building of the Beis Hamikdash, we're actually building the Beis Hamikdash and bringing it into physical reality. By the way, the art scroll has a beautiful, the prophet Yechezkel, which is what I learn every year. The parts of connected to the building of the third temple. As I said, I think it's the last 7 or 8 chapters. You'll see when you go there. It'll talk specifically. It starts in 40 or 41 of the building of the Beis Hamikdash. And what's nice is they have a fold-out that's inside the Sefer. And you open it up, and it's a big map with that has keynotes in it where everything's coded, and it's a map of the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. So when you're learning, it shows you where on that map these different parts are, and it's highly recommended to do such a thing. It's a custom. We're supposed to do it, but you literally feel like you're helping build the Beis Hamikdash. It's an amazing feeling, and that's what the Rebbe says, that it's going to descend, literally physical building coming down from heaven. This is a bomb right here. The Rebbe says, and we're emphasizing, especially now in this latter period where we find ourselves, the connection that we're adding on specifically to learning matters in the Torah that are connected to redemption and Mashiach. This is beautiful. This is not only as a way to prepare ourselves for the coming of redemption, and the Gaon be'ikr kedei l'tchil l'chiyos be'eni Mashiach v'geula l'chaim im hazman d'yamos HaMashiach. Beautiful. But the main thing the Rebbe says is in order that we should live right now in a way of Mashiach and Geula. Unbelievable. You think we're learning to prepare for redemption? They said, yeah, the Rebbe said that's part of it. But the main reason you're learning about Mashiach and Geula is to live with Mashiach and Geula. And I can tell you personally, I'm a witness, a guinea pig, whatever you want to call it, for the last 17, 18 years of the Sikha. 100%. Every year I learn them, the more I learn them, the more it brings me to a state of redemptive consciousness, enables me to go deeper into the matters that I'm dealing with in my life, and enables me to pull out the sparks of redemption from whatever's occurring in my reality. It's not because I'm such a highly lofty, intelligent person. It's because I'm following the directives of the Rebbe. This is what he's saying to do. This is available to everyone, so we can live with Mashiach. Because when we're learning matters of Mashiach and redemption, what is happening? We're automatically penetrating our comprehension and grasping the matters of the Mashiach and Geula that are in the Torah. It's entering into us. And it's entering not only into our brain, but it's penetrating into our hearts. And furthermore, the Rebbe says, when we conduct ourselves in this such a way, it enters into our makshava dibur meiser, our thought, speed, and action, in such a way that it brings us literally to this unique time where we're standing on the threshold of redemption, and we literally find ourselves in the midst of Mashiach's arrival. Brings you out there into here. Yesh lahais b'yoyis b'yor hatzorech u'mayla halei marator ve'eni Mashiach u'gula v'nyan b'esam shlishi hakanisa l'tchila shemot Mashiach b'hadam. And in addition to adding on to this, we could understand the necessity and the advantage of learning Torah as it's connected to matters of Mashiach and redemption, and the building of the third Beis Hamikdash. That is that we're entering in the beginning stages of Mashiach. Excuse me. She'oimrim hazah sheMashiach bo b'yachasach hadas. B'yachasach hadas. It says Mashiach will come. It says without das. What does it mean? It means that in a blink of an eye, when you least expect it. And again, this is in a personal way too, right? We've all experienced times where it's just dark out. I don't mean literally. I mean in our lives that things are just, it's a rough patch. It happens to everyone. You know, when we're going through hell on earth, we think that why is this happening to me? It's so hard. It's so difficult. We feel like we're alone, like we're the only ones in the world. But the reality of it is that everyone goes through these stages. And it says redemption comes without das, meaning all of a sudden, before you know it, boom, Hashem fixes your problem just like that. Takes you right out of the exile. It's the same thing with Mashiach in general. When we least expect it, boom. Can't wait to read the news caps on that day. Well, a temple has just come out of the sky. That's going to be interesting. And the Rebbe said, this is not a contradiction, God forbid, that, we shouldn't, to say that we should not be learning and comprehending and understanding matters of Mashiach with our doubts, with our knowledge. Of course we should. It's no contradiction whatsoever, especially as it's connected to learning matters of Mashiach and Geula. What does it mean? It means above your knowledge. Meaning it's going to be above that. It's going to be in a super ordinary or supernatural way. But notice the flaw is it's connected to actuality. The Rebbe said we need to make a shtorim, a lot of noise, considering where we're holding in this time, in this period. Especially now in the year I will show you wonders. The Achre Riyasa Nifla Ois Mo'idois shezehu shana melech HaMashiach Nolabo. And the Rebbe says we all can see the wonders, testify that the wonders that are happening in that year, that this is in fact the year that Melech HaMashiach reveals himself, which is exactly what happened. Rim Shanat Koshian, Chadira Ra Vargasha Sho'ena Al Saf Yemos HaMashiach Mamish. The Rebbe said so that the key is in order to penetrate this thick gullus, this thick darkness, if you will. You have to drill. You have to take these ideas of Mashiach, and they have to be really emphasized and drilled into people to such a way that it enters. Because we're in such a thick exile that you tell people, yeah, Mashiach's coming. They're like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. That's what you have to learn. It's like telling someone the Torah says you shouldn't, eat kosher. Okay, whatever. You have to learn. If you don't learn about Mashiach and Gula, how are you supposed to know it? How is it supposed to penetrate you? Says, and we will see these wonders that God is showing us. And specifically it says that wonders, I will show you wonders. Hu b'shtayim, these are two things. Arenu, the Kyle Kodesh Baruch Hu, that I will show you, is referring to Hashem himself. He will show us. Kodesh Baruch Hu mara'ah ba'atzmo, he himself. It's not going to be through angels or anything like that. It's God himself is going to show us. And base, that it is the beginning of what will be, that I will show you. And that it's happening, these wonders, in such a way that they're beginning, and we could see that it's coming from Hashem. But when instead of saying Areno Niflois, I will show you wonders, when it says wonders I will show you, the first thing is that we will see the wonders. And then we will see that these are signs of the redemption. And namely, furthermore, and it's not only these wonders that are going to be shown through himself, but even in other words, it's not going to be wonders just from God's perception, but every person will see literally that, wow, God is showing us wonders. This is something that's not normal. And the suggestion of the following is, through learning Torah as it's specifically connected to matters of redemption and Mashiach, that the power of the Torah has the ability to change a person's nature. And the Rebbe said, furthermore, God forbid that a person finds himself still outside from these matters of redemption, meaning it's not touching them, it hasn't reached them, they're not living with redemption, it doesn't mean anything to them. But through learning Torah of matters connected to Mashiach and Geula, it will elevate you to a situation of redemption. If this isn't an advertisement and marketing for learning about Mashiach and Geula, I don't know what is. Unless people just want to live in the gutless longer, I don't understand. And this will, the Rebbe says, reveal and bring you to a matters of redemption. And then you will also know and see and feel how Mashiach is really here and really coming. In other words, the Rebbe sums it up very strongly here, that this is how you live with redemption. In other words, one second. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like walking up to someone and saying, you know what, do you know how to do brain surgery? And they say no. And you say, why don't you just do it anyways? Well, I don't know how to do it. Well, how come you don't know how to do it? Because you didn't learn, right? It's the same idea. Everyone's a genius about Mashiach. We go, oh, it can't be the Rebbe's Mashiach, it's impossible. This and that. Have you learned about it? I just don't know. No. Everyone just becomes an expert on something that they know nothing about. So how are you supposed to live with Mashiach and Geula and understand and have that penetrate you when you're not learning it? It's impossible. Anyhow, all right, we're going to speed up. I need to finish a drop early. We are going now to, 1 second. We're going to skip through Yud Aleph and Yud Beis, and we're going to finish up. We're going to finish early tonight. We're going to hop ahead to Yud Gimel. Yiratzon mi Hashem as well. And it's literally just this, whatever, I don't want to say it, that it's not important, but it's not focused on the main thing we're talking about. We're talking about the new Torah that will come out. How is it a new Torah? It's really part of the Torah that we have now. There's no such thing as brand new because we've already given everything, but the innermost dimension will be revealed. Yud Gimel, V'hiratzon mi God's will. Hu v'ikar, and the main thing is, Shelo yitzarchu the devar l'orer al derek hamakshav hisbonenois be'ini Mashiach v'geula. That we shall see that to arouse ourselves, to contemplate and think about matters of Mashiach and redemption. And we must learn matters of Torah connected to Geula and Mashiach and to the building of the third temple. Since they will come immediately, and we will see with our physical eyes. That here is Mashiach. And here is the true and complete redemption. And here's the third temple. But Pashtus, and in the most simplest way, to Tammuz, the Parshas Balak, and we're finding ourselves on the 17th of Tammuz on Parshas Balak on Shabbat. Shanat Arenoni Flois, the year I will show you wonders. With Kayamim Nevuah, Parshas Shabua, Shekavra Kuroi. And the prophecy that took place in this week's parsha, that the completion of King David's kingship will be when the star comes forth from Yaakov. And this is referring to a Mashiach, the final redeemer, Mashiach Acharai, Shugala Es Yisrael, the final redeemer of the Jewish people who will take us out of the exile. The Meshech Lezeh Boyim called Pratyanini into Parshas Pinchas. And we see the continuation of redemption matters as it travels over to Parshas Pinchas. As Pinchas is Eliyahu, Shekavar Ata Eliyahu Matamod, the Beit Din Hagad, and that Eliyahu will come and announce the redemption. Minyan Yisrael Kol Bnei Israel, Luchas Ha'arts, and he will divide up the land of Israel to the Jewish people. Hakarabas Hakarbanas, and we will be able to offer our sacrifices. Haim Karbanas L'Kol Yom every single day. Haim Karbanas Shabbat, and on Shabbat. And on the days of festivals. Based on in the third temple, Mikdash Adonai Kanei Yadecha, the temple that God Himself will establish with His hands. And we will learn the new Torah. And it's a Torah we will literally see. And your teacher will no longer be concealed from your sight. And God will return to Tzion. And God will return to Tzion. And literally we will see what are face to face, and it should happen immediately. I will see you all in the base of Mikdash. God bless, and Mashiach